butter.
Thanks again for joining us on Real Health. We're discussing the holistic impact of stress today. According to recent studies, when breastfeeding, a baby's gut responds to its mother's milk by developing receptors that are able to detect the hormone cortisol and therefore activate neurochemical signals that can affect the brain. So these signals may influence a baby's stress response as well as the development of brain regions that regulate emotions such as fear and anxiety. So stress affects us from as young as birth. And we're getting it from our moms and our dads, in effect.
Yeah.
That just, I mean, that's something that's even hard to wrap my mind around, because that's the case of many young parents nowadays, if you think about it. Many parents, actually, nowadays. And so this is what babies are struggling with, and you see this all the time.
Yeah, because I treat a lot of babies and children, but the moms, when they come in, and the moms are stressed because the baby's got, you know, they're not sleeping well or they've got colic or whatever, then, you know, the first thing is I see the state that the mother's in, and that has to be addressed as well, because that on a long-term basis is obviously also affecting the baby, whether they're breastfeeding or not, but especially if they're breastfeeding, it's a physiological response.
Yeah.
But if they're not breastfeeding, it's an energetic response of this mother being so stressed out and holding the baby and not being able to take deep breaths. You know, children also mimic us, and we don't realize, you know, if a child is crying and they're getting upset, if you can sit and just take a few deep breaths, they'll actually unconsciously start to mimic your breathing.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And parents need to also recognize that as well.
Yeah, because this is the thing about breast milk, though. You know, we taught it as the superfood, and now we're reading that high levels of cortisol could be, you know, getting into that poor baby's gut. So it's again for that mom to be more cognizant of what she's passing on to her child. And this is how it links to nutrition as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Breast is still best.
It's best, yeah.
But the health of the mother is paramount. You'd be looking at cases of leaky guts and intolerances at a very early age with formula milk. So yeah, you can really get the child off to a good start with some breast milk.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mum has to be healthy.
Yeah, and again, just that cortisol coming through. Talk to us a little bit more about herbal support when we're dealing with stress, because that seems to be quite popular nowadays. See more tinctures when I walk into health stores and herbal remedies as well. And I know that's your area of, exactly.
So there's a group of herbs that they call the adaptogens, which are various herbs. It can be ashwagandha, bacopa, even rosemary, simple rosemary, rhodiola, ginseng, Siberian ginseng particularly. So that group of adaptogens, what they do is they help your body adapt to situations, which is what stress is. Stress is your body trying to adapt to whatever's going on right now, or whatever's going on here.
Yeah.
So an adaptogen actually helps support the body from a nutritional level, particularly acting on the brain as well as the adrenal gland. And we call that the HPA axis, or the hypothalamic pituitary axis, where the brain speaks to the adrenal gland to control the amount of cortisol that needs to be produced. So the adaptogens interact on that level, where they support the body and try to regulate the amount of cortisol, and in that way helps with your physiological reaction to the stress that your body's going under. So they are quite specific. I wouldn't suggest going to buy all of them and blasting yourself, because they can actually fatigue the adrenal system as well.
Wow.
So they need to be used under supervision, as well as know which which herb works for you specifically, depending on the type of stress you're dealing with. So,
and how would people, are they in tablet forms? Are they in these tinctures?
It depends, yeah.
Okay.
Tablets, tinctures, homeopathic form. You can get them any mode of oral medication. It just depends on what you prefer.
Yeah.
And you get different strengths as well, and it's dose dependent. So the patient will take it for a while, and then they'll see how they feel, and perhaps you can increase or decrease, but it's really individual. Like Ian said, everybody reacts to stress differently. So it's the same with the medicine, and how people respond to that.
And in a simplistic way, you kind of need to understand if somebody's overdoing the cortisol or underdoing. So you talked about Hans Seeley earlier, and in the early stress response, we rev up cortisol production, but later on it starts dropping. And that's when we lead to adrenal fatigue and then eventually exhaustion. So the herbal or nutritional strategy would be a bit different whether you're overproducing or underproducing.
Because this is the thing, stress is not bad. Because we have a way of saying things are good and bad.
Yeah.
It's a survival mechanism.
Absolutely.
And we can't be in that constant fight or flight state, but that's what a lot of people are in. Talk to us a little bit more about adaptogenic, because I like the fact that you mentioned the adaptogenic herbs, but there's also some adaptogenic superfoods like maca. Does that help in terms of nutrition and making sure that you can nourish your body to cope with stress better?
Yeah, I'm not the best expert on superfoods, but I do know about maca.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of mild adaptogen, but you'll be able to comment more on that one.
Yeah.
I think it's, in this day and age, most people can benefit from at least a mild adaptogen. And it's quite a nice way, just a scoop of maca in your smoothie in the morning can just help you cope with the world a little bit better.
Stress also affects our gut health and our microbiome. How is it actually doing that? Because we say, right, stress affects your gut. No, tell us how it's
Stress is massive on the gut. It's like the first thing you must consider. So you get the sympathetic fight or flight and the parasympathetic relax and repair, but it's also called relax and digest.
Yes.
So that's the environment, the relaxed environment when we digest food. And there's something called the cephalic phase of digestion. And just imagine you're sitting in a lovely restaurant, there's wafts of food coming from the kitchen, and you start to salivate. That's cephalic. You haven't even eaten food yet. So you need to initiate that to get the saliva flowing. Then it's a cascade down into good stomach acid production, into digestive enzyme production, and that's just to break down the food properly. So if you're stressed, do you think you do all these steps well?
Look, I don't even think we do that on a normal basis.
If you're eating a sandwich at your computer at lunchtime, no chance. And then you've got undigested particles of often food sensitivities that are irritating to our own immune system. It's like sandpaper on the gut membrane, it creates some leakiness, and then you get all the other effects that we talked about earlier, like potentially autoimmunity or just gut problems, diarrhea, or it could be constipation. We've talked about stress and the effect on, the effect of stress on the gut can push you towards diarrhea or towards constipation. It's this kind of like holding sense. Are you holding something in?
Yeah.
What is it you're holding in?
Are you full of? I get that. That makes sense to me. And I once read that eating foods that are wrong for your body, so if you have a general intolerance to them, and it may not be an allergic reaction to it, but just an intolerance, that is a form of chronic stress on your system.
Exactly. And we always talk about the gut being the second brain.
Yes.
I went into a very interesting piece of research where, we studied it at college. I'm sure you also studied it. But the way that the embryo develops, they actually say that the nervous system develops for the brain and the gut in the same place. And as we split and divide and grow into a little fetus, the gut and the brain share this link of a nervous system. So everything you put into your tummy or mouth to eat is going to affect the brain, and vice versa, because they're like twins that just got separated at birth in two different areas.
Jeez.
So it is a form of chronic stress, and we see that with nutrition and lifestyle, and how it has an effect both ways, vice versa. When you stress what you eat, you'll reach for fast, quick energy compound foods like sugars and fats, like high, easy digestible stuff. And when you're not so stressed, you take time to chew your salad like a cow, But other than that, it works both ways.
So Ian and Yashantha have shared with us that nutrition is really important when it comes to managing your stress. We caught up with nutritional therapist Nikki Robertson, and she shared quite a nice recipe to help you during those stressful times.
Who knew you could manage stress and anxiety through what you eat? So what we've got here today is a superfood salad, and I'm going to take you through the steps on how to make a warm superfood salad that you can enjoy in winter, because none of us like cold, soggy lettuce leaves in the cold months. What we've got here is your quinoa. Quinoa is not a form of protein. A lot of blogs like to sell quinoa as a form of protein. It contains about 20% protein, so it's a non-processed grain, and it is very good for you. It doesn't have any gluten. So the basis of the salad is going to be quinoa. Quinoa you cook just like rice, a little bit of salt, boiling water for maybe 10-15 minutes, and it goes from being a hard little grain, stony kind of thing to a grain that looks like it's got a little tail. So when it forms that little tail, you know that it's ready. So we're going to pop our warm quinoa into the salad bowl. And now I'm going to add probably one of the best superfoods out. Our salmon, you can use fresh salmon, but fresh salmon is extremely expensive. Tin salmon is fantastic. Tin salmon is half the price, or even a quarter of the price of fresh salmon. You can also heat this up, so you can saute it lightly with some olive oil on the stove just to make it crisp and warm if you really want to sort of take that warm salad idea a little bit further. And the bones are really good for you. The bones are full of calcium, so it's a great way to get extra calcium as well as your healthy omega-3 fats, which are incredibly good for brain health. Anybody with any sort of anxiety disorder, we put them on higher levels of omega-3s, and this is a really good way to get your omega-3s in. So what I'm going to do with the salmon is just break it up a little bit. You want to kind of flake it into the quinoa so it mixes easier, and you can see the little bones in here. So let's pop that in with our quinoa. So here I've got fennel. Fennel is part of the green phytonutrient group, and none of us really get enough greens in. Fennel is one of those superfoods that is purported to help defend against cancer. It's good for cellular health, it's full of folate. Quite tasty, quite an interesting vegetable to get in. It's a little bit licoricey, so it gives a different dimension to your food. Here I've got a little bit of mint and some coriander, just for, again, another dimension of flavor. And chives. Chives belong to what we call the allium family. Alliums are your onions, chives, garlic, and those are what we call nature's chemotherapy. So when you are looking at preventing cancer, or you generally want to look after your health, onions are a really, really good thing to add into your diet. Sometimes onions are really strong and you can't handle the aftertaste, so chives are pretty gentle, and that's, for most of us who can't digest onions, chives are a good option. Okay, so then we're going to pop some peas in here. Again, lovely superfood, fresh peas. Gives you a little bit of crunch and a little bit more texture to an otherwise quite stodgy salad, so it gives it a little bit more dimension. It's not so sloppy. And probably one of my favorite things is lemon zest. So lemon zest lifts all the sort of fishiness right out of the dish. Lemon zest, your lemon oil, again, another form of nature's chemotherapy, is full of vitamin C, full of polyphenols, so it's a really, really healthy thing to add to your diet. And what you need to do is just get a little zester. Be very careful, these things are incredibly sharp. And just pop a little bit of lemon zest just over the peas, and the smell is incredible. So got a little bit of lemon zest, not too much because it can get quite bitter. And it doesn't take a lot. You know, there's that thought that more is better, but in the case of something like lemon zest, just a little bit will do. So for a dressing, let's give a little bit of lemon juice. So the acidity from the lemon juice actually becomes alkaline in the body, and if you're looking to combat anxiety and depression, you want an alkaline kind of diet, and lemon juice is the first step in creating that. Another form of really amazing omega-3 is your olive oil. Okay, so give that a little bit of a toss, and you've got a true superfood salad that you can eat any time of the year. So toss everything really well, nicely mix the flavors together. You can add sea salt, black pepper, however you want to season it. And then for added bang for your buck, you can pop on some avocado, which is another amazing superfood. Again, full omega-3s, and some lime or lemon wedges, also fantastic, just to give it a little bit more pizzazz. And parsley. Parsley is fantastic superfood as well. Really, really good for detox. Just to make it look pretty. So there you have a warm winter superfood salad that's definitely going to give you a boost.
Learning to effectively manage your stress is vital to achieving optimal health. Stay with us, because when we return, we get practical strategies to managing your stress. Don't go away.
I'm feeling better.